when people have large macro scale dreams, they usually require some kind of institutional intervention or policy. So those are all political acts at a large scale. The permaculture, the regenerative idea, is that we don't have to wait for that to occur. If you're part of a policy think tank, that's great. That's your small act. But that's you in Oberlin or wherever doing that small act. What are the other 10,000 of us supposed to be up to? And what we need to be up to is a much more, I would even call it impulsive, right? Here and now, immediate action that has the possibility of being rhizomic, in the sense that, like ginger, it's a beautiful, my friend June Holly, who does community building work all over the world, talks about, creating rhizomic experiences and efforts where we start a small act that produces more small acts. In the process of inviting other people into our garden, they learn how to garden and spread those seeds. It could be 60 miles away because they happen to be visiting their grandmother this weekend. They learned about gardening, got excited about that. Or they learned about worms, or they learned about reclamation, or they learned about transforming lawns and green spaces into something organic. So I think that's the whole effort is to engage people in conversations that don't require us to wait and hope, and really have expectations and faith in leaders making action occur. It's okay to have faith in leaders who aren't taking action, right? It's okay to want more from them and hope that they start taking action. But hope is a terrible strategy, and it's a terrible reason to postpone, like you're saying, the engagement of the gifts and the talents and the resources and the assets we have today. And the fruit share is where you get neighbors in an area to really plan together, work together to talk about what kind of, again, dreaming. It starts with the dream. What would we love to see in 20 years? And everybody has good fruit, homegrown, organic, all year round. And we have a choice of fruit. Even though if you only grow one tree, you have a choice of 8 or 9 things. Well, if you got 8 or 9 people, everybody who's willing to, and you get a tree going and you can't eat it all. Like I was talking about my apricot tree out here. I come home from a trip and there's fruit on the ground because there's not enough people to pick it. Right. So anyway, you get some really good trees going, and I do apricots and you do cherries and somebody else does apples and you let the sharing begin. That's not a hard thing to come up with, and that's very rhizomic because you can invite other people into that who, let's say, are really good at canning. They've got the equipment, they have the skill, they have the ability, and they love to do it. What's better on a Saturday afternoon when your team's playing poorly than to get some cans going and distract yourself? So we invite them into it. What happens is they start to learn the process, and then they take it to the next segment of the neighborhood, or they take it to wherever they live. Maybe they're from across the city. This is your brother-in-law, and he takes it to Pakistan or whatever. So I think it's very rhizomic in that sense of building each like the ginger bud. Each bud creates its own bud from there. And then that's what's so beautiful about that metaphor is there's no central bud. There's no centralized source of conversation and activity and dream and intention and invitation, that each one creates its own next one. Where does that stop? Well, you don't know. It's fairly unstoppable. It's very sustainable. Excited about food incubators like we have down in Athens, Ohio, which is a pretty decent one. They still have a couple hundred people who are doing their own productions for themselves or small businesses, and that's a great way to do things. I think in the city, or we said look at the region here, how many food incubators do you think that we could handle? And why not associate those with rooftop greenhouses? So I think, Brad, I think part of the magic of the conversations and the power of them is of how they synergistically work together, right? So, and I want to talk about the invitation piece a little bit. So you and I are doing the tree, the fruit sharing with the trees. We get some canners in there, and somebody says, boy, we could start a small business with this. Maybe we could start a whole food incubator around just starting with fruit-related products. There's tons of marketing, advertising, graphic arts, web, social media talent in the town. They don't even know what to do with themselves. And so let's invite some of that to the table. We have churches, hundreds of churches in this town that have kitchens, fully equipped kitchens. And how often are they used? How many hours a week out of 168 is there's nothing going on in those? So couldn't those even be mini incubators that if made money would support these churches? I don't get how anyone's going to say no to that. Mm-hmm. Okay. Because it's not by donation, right? And so there's an earning that goes on there, and I think that's a big trend that we're going to see there too. So the food incubators are very exciting. I would love to start an herb share because herbs are beautiful. They can be, talk about containers or Maurice's wood chip gardens above parking lots and everything under the sun. Herb share is a great thing. And again, any of these things can be monetized, they can be commercialized as they start to grow. But see, the whole thing gets down to who are you inviting to the table? My buddy Brian Oken, who just opened Verve Restaurant downtown, he's interested in herbal, he's interested in herbs, he's interested like all these great chefs are. He's interested in food. How do we invite him into the conversation? And who is he connected to? And I think that's where the serendipity is. When you and I invite anybody to the table, we have no idea what's going to pop out of their mouth. Or who's going to pop out of their mouth. Do you guys know so-and-so? And they have this and they want to do that. This is where it proliferates. Mm-hmm.